on final passage.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. Madam Clerk, please read the title for the third and final time.
House Bill number 308 by the House Labor and Commerce Committee, entitled An Act Relating to Unemployment Benefits During a Period of State or National Emergency Resulting from a Novel Coronavirus COVID-19 Outbreak and providing for an effective date.
Representative Sponholz.
Thank you, Speaker Edgman. HB 308 is about responding to the COVID-19 coronavirus in Alaska. COVID-19 is creating a public health emergency for our state, but it's also creating an economic emergency for many Alaskans. In a few short weeks, we've gone from watching, reports of COVID-19 abroad to it's being right here on our doorstep in Alaska. And the results of our public health social distancing strategies, they're going to reduce, it's going to reduce COVID-19 being spread, but it's also creating widespread hardships almost immediately because a business is having to close down or dramatically scale back operations as a result of the public health measures. The hospitality industry, for example, has been significantly impacted already by the public health mandate 3.1 that was issued by the governor on the 17th, just 2 short days ago, that has ended all dine-in services as of 5 p.m. yesterday. The Anchorage Daily News reported about those impacts, and I just talked to my sister last night, who runs a couple of coffee shops in Anchorage, and she had to give the bad news to her employees that she had to cut back their hours by 50%. And when you go from 8 hours a day to 4 hours a day and reasonable tips to almost no tips, that's pretty devastating. So we have people all across the state of Alaska who are underemployed. We also have some people across the state that are unable to work because they're caring for a loved one. We have school closures that mean 137,000 children do not have care through the end of this month for 2 full weeks. That can present a significant hardship for people who are hourly workers, who are salary and don't have sick leave. So HB 308 seeks to provide a short-term relief for Alaskans who are underemployed due to COVID-19 by allowing that if you are underemployed because you're providing care, including medical care to a loved one, or that you are unable to work because you're preventing or limiting the spread of COVID-19, you're eligible for unemployment. It waives the standard 1-week waiting requirement for unemployment benefits, and it also increases the weekly per dependent benefit from $25 to $75 so that we can ensure that families who are who have children are not adversely impacted. This bill works with H.R. 6201, which is passed by the U.S. Senate and was signed into law by the President yesterday, which authorizes unemployment insurance for COVID-19 impacted Americans, but if states allow for it. So this bill actually complements this federal law that has just been passed. For those that wonder, our unemployment insurance fund has plenty of funds available to meet the need. Lennon Weiler with the with the Department of Labor estimates that we have enough funding to meet an 800% increase in unemployment insurance claims for 12 months. Currently, there's $482 million in the fund. We typically pay about $8 to $10 million a month in benefits, and they estimate that this next month that they could have about 70,000 Alaskans impacted by COVID-19, which could create a cost to the fund of about $60 to $80 million per month. But as I said, they estimate that we have 12 months worth of funding to be able to do this. This is finally a temporary measure which expires when the federal authorization expires, or by April 1st, 2021, whichever comes first. Because we're seeing job losses and underemployment already as a result of COVID-19, it's essential that we pass this measure immediately, and I want to thank all of my colleagues who have worked very quickly in the last 24 hours to help get this bill passed, from the people in Ledge Legal to people in this body here. I think working Alaskans across the state appreciate the urgency with which the legislature is responding, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Representative Josephson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the chair of the Labor and Commerce Committee and the Rules Committee for acting swiftly on this issue. I did want to take the opportunity, however, to note that the UI benefit, the maximum benefit paid in Alaska law, has not been updated for 12 years, and we are last in the nation with the exception of the southern states. So states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida pay inferior benefits to our monthly maximum benefit. But setting aside the southern states, we are the least generous in our statute. And so while this is a fantastic bill, and I support it wholeheartedly, I'm only commenting that there's an opportunity to discuss updating, if for no other reason, the effect of inflation, our unemployment benefit schedules. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Briefities.
Can't pass a bill that only benefits the working class now, can they? Almost back into real time. Holy but Jesus, good thing that I was late getting this one started. Tell how unprepared they are to be talking about this bill. Holy moly. We are back in real time and they are still at ease. That's almost 15 minutes going on here. Okay, Alaskans, just so that we're all clear about what's going on, they have House Bill 308, which is basically unemployment insurance, releasing it and putting no restrictions on the length of time that you have to be unemployed. You can file tomorrow and have it the very next day. This bill is doing nothing more than relaxing the laws to let you tap into your own money while they shut down the businesses that you may be working for or the business that you may own. As owners, though, this bill is not going to help you. They have another one out there that they're offering that's going to offer small business loans to businesses to be able to take out, that you have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops and hurdles to get the federal government to pay it back in the end. Places that are still open out there that are not being shut down. You can't even walk into a fast food restaurant anymore. You have to go through the drive-thru. Everybody has been completely shut down and eliminated for their work out there. Yet government, special interests, those who have big funding, big backers, government wages coming to them on a daily basis. Again, $11.25 billion. That is the state budget that they have right now. This is bigger than last year's budget was, and it still doesn't include the permanent fund dividend in it. They have enough revenue inside the permanent fund dividends ERA that they have made in earnings, even after the stock market has tanked like it has. They have more revenue in there for profits that they have made this year. They can pay back every dime of the permanent fund dividend that they have stolen from us, cover their $1.6 billion shortfall that they have for the state budget, which is growing. Was 1.6, now it's closer to 2 billion. So here we go. They're about ready to start. Let's see what the special interests have come up with today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move and ask unanimous consent to move back to second reading for the purposes of a specific amendment, that being amendment number 1.
Without objection, Representative Tarr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move amendment number 1.
Object for purposes of discussion.
Thank you. This amendment, if folks want to look at the way the bill is set up, this program and the bill sets it up for 1 year. But on page 2, line 3, in section B there, the ability for an insured worker to participate in that program at this time is limited to 90 days. And this amendment would just extend that to 120 days. I was specifically thinking of folks that have been really disrupted by lost hours and by staying home with kids right now, because the schools are closed. The schools may stay closed all year. We don't know, but that's what's happening in a lot of states. We may recess, so just want to give enough of a window that all of those things can be covered and give them that little bit of extra stability. So I ask for member support.
So the objection has been removed. I'm not hearing any additional objection. Amendment number 1 has been adopted. This brings the bill back into third reading. Is there further discussion on the bill itself as amended? Representative Tuck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate this bill coming forward to us. I just want to point out a couple of things about unemployment insurance in general. In the state of Alaska, we're actually dead last in regards to how the Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Labor, recommends that we handle unemployment insurance. It should be about 50% of the average earnings of a person in that area, state of Alaska. So they take the number of employment that we have in the state, and they do an average, and then they do an average weekly of that, and they recommend 50%. When you look at the Department of Labor's the recommendations, we actually fall behind Puerto Rico and Guam on those statistics. I also want to point out that when you do increase unemployment insurance, it has a direct impact on the economy because the money is spent right away. Unlike if you give tax breaks really don't, it falls way down the list of stimulating the economy. And second happens to be infrastructure for mass transportation. So it's right there for an economic stimulus. It keeps our supply chain going for food supply. It keeps our farmers going, keeps our transportation going, keeps our grocery stores going, and it allows people to pay for their rents and be able to sustain themselves. And so for that, I do support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any wrap-up comments before we get there? Representative Sponholz, we do have a mic raised in the corner. Representative Fields.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. This is an important bill, and I appreciate the chair of the committee for working with departmental staff and also with the congressional delegation to make sure that this bill advances in concurrence with recently passed federal legislation. I do just want to note that there is one important remaining reform that subsequent federal legislation will need to address, which is to make sure that the wages earned by someone who has radically reduced work hours are not offset by unemployment insurance benefits enabled under this bill. So there is one really important remaining piece that will need to be addressed, but this bill will make sure that our house is in order on a state level to meet the need of Alaskans in a variety of very pressing circumstances. So I will certainly be voting yes.
Representative Eastman.
Thank you for the question, sponsor. Under what circumstances would a person be covered by this bill? If you lose just 1 hour a week, are you covered, or is there a greater threshold? Just want to be clear on who will be impacted. Thank you.
In wrap-up, Representative Sponholz. Am I missing something? Eddie's.
They're all thinking to themselves right now, oh man, we deserve such a big pat on the back. We're giving them their access to their own money. We're going to give them extended time to be able to get their own money. Oh, so graciously we give it to you. Enjoy. Yet, this is only going to economically impact the working poor. Those out there that doesn't have any resources whatsoever are going to find themselves dramatically falling further and further and faster into the hole. If they're expecting to have unemployment insurance, the money that you get for unemployment to cover their house payment, their car payment, making sure the electricity stays turned on, their phone bills get paid, that the food is being put on the table. These guys are nuts. They know for a fact there is not enough money coming from unemployment to be able to keep that going, especially in a family working of 4 people.
Will the House please come back to order and wrap up? Representative Sponholz.
Thank you, Speaker Edgman. And I want to thank everybody for their work on this. I want to thank the member from District 19 for her amendment, which I think strengthens this bill, allowing for this emergency benefit to be available for 120 days.
Our $1 million trust fund,
if
baby.
Somebody doesn't have a job after that time, they would then be eligible to apply for traditional unemployment insurance, which is which is good. In answer to the member from District 10, no, if you lose 1 hour, you would not be eligible for unemployment benefits. The department estimates that you would have to lose about 25% of your income, to be able to receive any benefit because of the way that the program is structured. So you'd have to receive a pretty significant loss, and what we're seeing in most people, most of the people that would be eligible would actually be applying because they had lost a lot more hours. So I think there are a lot of sideboards on the program. I also just want to clarify that the administration supports this bill. They were unequivocal in their testimony last night that in House Rules that they support the bill, and I met with Commissioner Ledbetter this morning to talk further about the details. We had discussions about implementation and whether they had enough personnel. They do have enough personnel at this time because they're redeploying folks, and I want to thank a couple of other people. I want to thank the members.
I'm going to take a brief of these. You want to come up? Will the House please come back to order? Continuing on with wrap-up comments, Representative Sponholz.
Thank you. I also want to thank the member from District 20. He and his staff worked very hard on this on this bill over the last week. I want to thank the Rules Chair for expediting Rules Committee hearing on this last night, and the Speaker and all of your staff for expediting this. I think Alaskans are afraid. They're fearful right now. They're fearful about COVID-19 spreading across the state of Alaska. But for many Alaskans, they're fearful about how they're going to pay their rent. They're going to put food on the table for their children. And this bill will go a long way to ensuring that working Alaskans who aren't able to work are able to get some necessary support at this time. So thank you, everybody.
Are you ready for the question? The question being, shall House Bill 308 as amended pass the House? Members may proceed to vote. Will the clerk please lock the roll? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? Will the clerk please announce the vote?
38 yeas, 0 nays.
With a vote of 38 yeas and 0 nays, House Bill 308, as amended, has passed the body. Mr. Majority Leader.
Procedure of the bill be considered a roll call on the effective date clause.
Hearing no objection, the effective date clause has been adopted.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. You got to see House Bill 308 has now passed for unemployment insurance. Basic gist of it is supposedly you're supposed to be able to immediately file for unemployment insurance if you have been released, laid off, or any of the above from your job because of the virus. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative for you. You would get to hear about unemployment insurance. So if you've been canned, laid off right at the moment, this is the video for you. Watch it, share it with all your friends, neighbors, family. If they've been canned, they've been laid off, they need to start collecting money right now. This bill supposedly allows them to go down to the unemployment office, file today, prove they got fired, and they should be cutting them a check tomorrow, and this check will keep on coming until the virus is taken care of and they say people can go back to work again. Have a great day. If anything else comes up today, I'll make sure it gets shared. Have a good one.